Hello and thank you for having me. Last year, I was invited to speak in the PMAP conference in Cebu. My talk was entitled The Business of Spirituality. A few months later, I shared this with my spiritual director, a Jesuit priest, and he said, maybe the next time you give a talk, you should entitle it In My Father's Business. Actually, this idea resonated with me since in my almost 40 years in the salon business, I've always felt that my Father in heaven has been my provider and protector in good times and in bad. So please allow me to give you a glimpse of Piandre in my father's business. The first Piandre salon was opened in 1987, a small shop in Makati which had only less than 20 staff. In the first 2 years, we were besieged with challenges that ranged from disloyalty and deception by our employees, labor cases, nasty landlords, our own wrong choices and failed decisions. I listened to the advice of many experts, studied business cases, but despite these inputs and know-how, the challenges were never ending. As a young salon owner, I realized that I needed to anchor myself on something greater than all, which could only be God Himself. This is how the first spiritual retreat in Baguio came about in 1990. The retreat and the succeeding annual retreats after that provided a safe environment for introspection. The movements in the retreat made us recognize our whole self with its past hurts, our weaknesses and failures, but also our strengths and blessings, appreciating God's love and undeniable presence in our lives. The annual retreat helped to fill our cup and strengthen us to face our everyday challenges. This had such an impact on the employees' mindset and attitude that I felt a transformation in the culture of the salon. Over time, our regular customers felt something good from the people serving them, and eventually our sales remarkably improved. Without noticing it, I was also being transformed into a better business leader. I was also doing my deepening of my faith and consulting God in my business decisions. Pwede pala yun. Pwedeng kasama ang Diyos sa negosyo. I felt that I was making better business decisions whenever I consulted with Him. I was convinced that spirituality could be the core and culture of our salon business. When I was preparing for this talk, I reflected on how could I share from my 40 years of being a leader and entrepreneur, and what I came up was two guiding principles that helped me run the business. The first one is clarity of vision. Very early on, my vision was to bring each other closer to God. From this vision redounded the spiritual activities that we practice until today at Piandre. A daily 3 o'clock prayer in all salons, a monthly formation program based on the Gospels, a yearly blessing of the hands, mass wedding, and a family life program where we implemented the 5-day work week so that the staff can spend time with their family. These programs produced an understanding of self, an appreciation of the other. It also fostered love and harmony in the salon, and eventually abundance and prosperity. In 1995, I took an unprecedented leap to set up a salon cooperative for the employees, which until today is still the only salon cooperative in the country. This I felt was consistent with being in my father's business. Eventually, the cooperative prospered to own two P. branches. The activities of P. were now consistent with the vision of being in the father's business. The second principle I'd like to share with you is the power of values. Sometimes the values of the company are something that we don't spend a lot of time on. We have a mission and a vision and a key results areas, but many times the values are just pushed aside and really not lived out. What are the company values of P. Great. Great stands for gratitude, respect, enthusiasm, accountability, and trustworthiness. It's very amazing for me that since March, I've seen these values really tried and tested. When the pandemic struck on March 16, everything was closed. There was so much uncertainty and confusion. If I was feeling this way, what more were our staff feeling? Some stuck in their boarding houses in Manila, unable to go home to their province because of the lockdown. I called my children to a virtual meeting. I explained to them that the staff needed to be uplifted because they would lose much of their income from their daily tips and commissions, that they would have to make do with their modest salaries to support their families and extended families. We needed to be constantly connected with them to show our support. So I proposed a daily motivational blog, which we will call Reflex, on Facebook exclusively for P. employees. I insisted that each family member, including me, would have different time slots and take up various topics that could be shared with my staff and their families. Peachy, my eldest daughter, though living in Costa Rica, would teach conversational English to our staff. Jayton, who heads a tutoring center for public school children, would have his children's hour with the kids of the staff. Andrea can give her daily written Bible reflections. And Ina was in charge of the bigger episodes like mindfulness, metamorphosis, and the Filipino character and culture. So 2 days after the lockdown, on March 18, our first P. Reflex went live to our 420 plus employees to keep them informed and assured of their continuous salaries, updated on the latest news on the virus. And for the days that followed on my time slot, I presented the inspiring and heroic stories of champion explorers and athletes to show how sacrifice and determination can see us through this crisis, and to let some hope shine onto our staff, who in the past 33 years have shared our struggles and failures and were part of the miracles that brought about the financial blessings in my father's business. My motivational talks lasted 1 hour every morning, 11 a.m. to 12 noon, but the preparation would start from the night before. I would pray and ask for guidance, reading up on stories until the next morning. The applicable concepts were explained in Tagalog on subjects like The 7 Habits by Covey, Ikigai, Emotional Intelligence, and others. Through this whole experience, our values were lived out. Gratitude. Every day we reminded each other that we are grateful to be alive and healthy, that we had food on the table and life was beautiful since we had people we love and people who love us. Respect. Respect is reinforcing the value of each one in the company. I've always asked and consulted the staff's opinion and quickly changed course when I would hear dissent or suggestions coming from them. Enthusiasm. Every day I put on my best makeup and blow dry my hair and wear the colorful clothes and give a snappy, cheerful greeting to all. Hello, everyone! Being in the service and beauty industry, I realize enthusiasm is a valuable trait to have, especially in this pandemic. Accountability. Just as we in management had committed to stand arm in arm with each of the staff, we also challenged them to be accountable for their time spent in lockdown, to spend it on who was important and what activities would enrich their lives as opposed to waste their time. I shared with them about their areas of concern and areas of influence, how certain things such as tracking and tracing the virus and politics are part of things they can't control in the world and should limit their exposure to these kinds of matters. But for the areas that they can influence themselves, their education, their quality of work which can be done through training and practice at home, daily physical habits of exercise, good nutrition, good sleep, daily writing, reading of the Bible, quality time with the kids, gratitude statements before meals, learning a new skill. All these things can be a daily routine with lifetime effects. Trustworthiness. In the more than 130 days of Reflex, the bond between us as one big family was strengthened, all the more. The staff became more trusting with management, and management had to trust the staff more especially with their health and their own daily sanitation protocols. Through our everyday bond, I can see them. They became energized and committed, raring to go back to work, to give their all for the survival of the company. So here are our values of great. Never have they been lived out by our staff and management as much as during these last 4 months. We constantly check our actions and plans against these values to find out if we are still on track and if we haven't lost our way. This further strengthens my belief that the values we have planted years back and values that we can plant even today are what will really see us through this pandemic and on to a new life in the new world. From the looks of it, this crisis may go on for months or even years. But what I have now, what Andre has now, is a stronger spirit and a stronger faith, knowing that we are all rising together under the power and protection of our God, who is the source of all love and goodness. And for myself and my children, we now realize that we only need to show up and be seen literally in times of crisis, even without certainty of results, and great things will happen because we are doing our share in the Father's business. Maraming salamat po.